Hi, I'm Chris Sangster, and welcome back to the studio. Today, I'm going to give you my full review of the new update to Logic Pro version 11.2. Apple has been on an absolute heater lately with Logic Pro updates. Ever since version 11 came out a little over a year ago, they've continued to give us meaningful updates with new innovations and long desired features. So I've been testing and working daily with Logic Pro version 11.2 for the last 2 weeks, and I can say that this trend absolutely continues with this latest update. But before we dive into all the new features, here's your reminder: back up your current version of Logic Pro before updating. I say this when every new update comes out, but here's the steps. Create a zip file of the current Logic Pro application and store it in a new folder inside of your applications folder. That way you can replace the updated application file if anything on your system breaks with the new update. All right, disclaimers out of the way, let's dive in. The biggest new feature is called Flashback Capture. And funnily enough, it's not a new feature at all. It's actually a meaningful update to an old Logic Pro feature called Capture Recording. With the old Capture Recording feature, if you were jamming along to your song on your MIDI keyboard and you played something you loved only to realize you forgot to hit the record button first, we've all been there, right? You could recover that lost performance by hitting Shift-R. Essentially, Logic was always recording a MIDI region for a record-enabled MIDI track in the background. Really great feature and one that has saved me many times. Now, with the new Flashback Capture feature, this functionality has been expanded to audio tracks as well, meaning that as long as the audio track is record-enabled and the song is playing, Logic is recording in the background, and you can recover that recording even if you didn't hit the record button first. I'm so stoked to see this functionality come to audio tracks. Not only does this save the day when you just simply forgot to hit record, but I also think it helps those of us that suffer from performance anxiety when we know we're actually recording. I know I suffer from this. We can just capture that perfect rehearsal take we did without worrying about how to perform better during the recording take. But there are a few things to note about the Flashback Capture feature. Firstly, the keyboard shortcut is still the same, Shift-R. And you can also enable a button for it in the transport by right-clicking in the control bar and going to customize control bar and display. I think it's helpful to have the button view enabled because it will be grayed out when no flashback capture is available, giving you a quick visual reference of when you can actually use the feature. Exactly when flashback capture is working is the next nuance. So for MIDI tracks, anytime you have a software instrument track record enabled and you play something on your MIDI keyboard, a flashback capture recording is created, even if playback is stopped. But the flashback capture is reset every time you start playback. So there's only one flashback capture recording available at a time for MIDI tracks. For audio tracks, the session must be playing in order to trigger a flashback capture recording. It also resets every time playback is stopped and started, and it can capture up to 3 minutes of continuous playback. If we go beyond that 3-minute mark, it will recover the last 3 minutes of playback. So we lose the beginning of the recording, not the end. It can also function with a cycle range enabled, allowing us to capture multiple takes that were not recorded. However, in my testing, it seems that only the first 4 times through the cycle range are available to be recovered. And if you do more cycles, you're just going to get those first 4. I'm not sure why the 3-minute limitation doesn't apply in cycle mode, but just be aware that you can only capture those first 4 takes you did with the cycle on. I've also found that it's capable of capturing either multiple MIDI tracks at a time or one MIDI track and one audio track at a time.
When you're alone and lost, there's nothing to be found.
But not multiple audio tracks. So unfortunately, Flashback Capture is not going to save you if you forgot to press record on a multi-track recording. But all in all, an excellent update to an already excellent Logic Pro feature. The next big update in Logic Pro version 11.2 is an update to the StemSplitter function. As before, we can import a full song into Logic, right-click on the audio region, go to Processing, and choose StemSplitter. In the StemSplitter menu that pops up, we see a few things have changed. The big one is that we can now split out the piano and guitar tracks into their own stems, which is really cool. I was hoping to get an option to split the background vocals out as well, as I know a lot of people really want this functionality, but I suppose we'll still have to wait on that one. We also have some new presets in this top drop-down menu, allowing us to quickly select, say, the acapella or just the instrumental or certain combinations of stems. That's pretty cool. We also have this new feature at the bottom here that allows us to submix down the deselected tracks into one stem. So if I deselect bass, guitar, and piano, and then select this submix checkbox, StemSplitter will combine those three elements into one stem. Some nice functional upgrades, but how does it sound? To me, I noticed the biggest improvement in the sound of the vocal stem. This right here sounds almost exactly like I soloed the tracks in my mix. It's really impressive.
Different directions, babe, it's different directions.
However, some of the issues I found with the original StemSplitter still persist. It still has some of that phasey warbliness to the sound, especially with drums. And it still gets kind of confused with reverb. Sometimes it'll put the reverb sound in the correct stem, and sometimes it throws it into this other track. I especially noticed this with the guitar. This guitar part in this song has a lot of reverb on it, and StemSplitter really didn't like that. I also found that the piano stem works for real piano sounds and basic electric piano sounds like Rhodes and Wurlitzer pretty reliably, but any synth sound is still going to be put into the other track. Again, it's another nice update to an already very popular Logic Pro feature, albeit one that I don't personally use very often. Do remember, you need a Mac with an M1 chip or later in order to use StemSplitter. Next up, we have Apple Intelligence writing tools and ChatGPT integrated into the Notepad. They are found in this new button that's next to the font button. I have to admit, when I first heard about this one, I thought it was a bit gimmicky and just another example of Apple trying to force AI tools into every nook and cranny of their software. And I still somewhat feel that way. I just don't see how the proofread or rewrite tools would be helpful in the Notepad in Logic Pro. For me, this is a place to jot down a to-do list, analog signal chain, or write lyric ideas, none of which I care about being amazing quality writing. One use case I could see for the writing tools is if I quickly jotted down a to-do list for the project, but I didn't put it in a list format. I could highlight the text, select list in the writing tools, and it would generate my to-do list in a list format. Then I simply hit replace to paste that into my notepad. Not the most helpful thing in the world, but not bad either. Then there's the ChatGPT integration, and I can see this one being a bit controversial, but I do think it has some helpful applications. To access it, we have to hit the Compose button at the bottom of the Writing Tools menu. The first time you click on it, you have to set up ChatGPT integration on your Mac. You don't have to have a ChatGPT account, but you just have to give your Mac permission to access ChatGPT on your behalf. Once that's set up, we can go wild with the usual silliness of AI prompting, and although I personally wouldn't count ChatGPT among my favorite lyricists, I do have one thing I love using ChatGPT for in a songwriting context. And that's as a smart rhyming dictionary. Instead of just looking up words that rhyme with real, we can ask ChatGPT to give us words that rhyme with real that are appropriate in a love song or whatever the vibe of the song is. then we get a more concise list of rhyming words to look through. Since sometimes I will sketch my lyrics out in the Logic Pro notepad, I do find this part of the ChatGPT integration pretty handy. Before we continue on with the video, I want to show you how to get the most out of Logic Pro. Listen, I love Logic, but the truth is that right out of the box, or should I say right out of the App Store, it is not fully optimized for musicians, producers, and audio engineers. There are just some truly strange default settings in Logic Pro. That's why I created the Logic Pro Optimization Guide, a free to download video guide and accompanying PDF cheat sheet that walks you through step by step all of the settings to change in order to get the most out of Logic Pro. These setting changes will benefit first-time Logic Pro users and wily Logic Pro vets alike. I truly believe that by changing these settings, you will not only improve your workflow, but actually speed up your music making process. So, if you want to take control of the DAW and optimize Logic Pro, click the link in the description box below the like button and download the Logic Pro Optimization Guide. It's all yours, completely free. Next up, my favorite new feature of Logic Pro 11.2. One that makes my job as a mixing engineer so much more enjoyable. Long faders. In the mixer window, we can go to the view menu and enable long faders. Just look how much glorious extra room we have in the faders now. So freaking good. Now, why am I geeking out over something so simple? It's because of a mixing concept I call mixing in the meat of the faders. Let me explain. When setting fader levels, I like to try to stay within this range here, kind of between 24 and 3 on the meter. And if we look at the dB scale to the left here, we'll see why. In this range, the scale is even. Each of these hash marks represents 1 dB. But if we go lower than this, we see that the scale starts to bunch up, and a small movement of the fader can result in a big change in level. This is especially important when doing fine detail automation passes, as we need to be able to set the volume very precisely. This was all still applicable with the smaller fader view, but now that meat of the fader range is a lot bigger on the screen, and it's much easier to set volume positions and do automation rides with precision. We can enable long faders in both the standalone mixer window as well as the mixer window that's nested inside the main window. However, I feel like it takes up a bit too much screen real estate in the nested window. So for me, I'm going to turn long faders on for just the separate mixer window, which I always have open on my second monitor while mixing. I absolutely love this new feature, but I do have one small gripe. It doesn't apply to the inspector channel strips, and I still use those a lot for quick adjustments. I would love to see the ability to have the long fader view there as well. Moving on, we have a new feature called Search and Select Track, which really helps out with navigating very large sessions. For me, this is going to be very helpful in a film post-production session. Here's the session for a feature-length film I did the sound for. As you can see, the track count is absolutely massive. And finding one specific track in it to say, make a change from a note from the director can actually take kind of a long time. But with this new feature, we can just come to the track menu, choose search and select track. Then we get this pop-up search bar where we can type in the name of the track, hit enter, and Logic automatically selects it. Very handy if I need to make a quick adjustment to just one track in amidst all this chaos. One thing that does have me a bit baffled about this new feature is its supposed default keyboard shortcut. Apple's own documentation says two different things. Here it says Control Command T, but here it says Option Command T. To make things more confusing, it's assigned to neither on my system, as both of those commands already have assignments. So, not really sure what's going on there. If you updated and got a keyboard shortcut automatically assigned to search and select track, drop a comment below and let me know which one it was. Of course, as with most Logic Pro updates, we got some new Apple Loop sound packs, 3 to be exact. But remember, these do not automatically download when you update Logic. To get the new sound packs, we have to come up to the Logic Pro menu, Sound Library, and then choose Download All Available Sounds. We then see this progress bar under the LCD that tells us when the download is finished. Now we can see the 3 new packs in amongst all the others. The 3 new ones are Dance Floor Rush, the Tosin Abasi pack, and my personal new favorite, Magnetic Imperfections. This one has loads of cool sounding loops with tons of analog wabi-sabi to them. Really like the sound of these. And all of them include a chord track, meaning that any session players we add after adding one of these loops will automatically play along with the chords of the loop. A small but meaningful update is a new settings option to save the undo history with the project. Before, when a project was saved and closed, the undo history was wiped clean. But now if we come to the Logic Pro menu, Settings, and General, we can enable this feature called Save Undo History with Project. So let's make some moves to this session to create some undo steps, then save the project and close Logic. And we'll see when we reopen the project, those undo steps are still in the undo history, and we can undo or redo these moves that we made before we closed Logic. Again though, one small gripe, this does not apply to actions taken in the mixer window or in plugins, even if we have those options ticked on to be saved into the undo history window. Hoping that this one will be fixed soon because it seems like a big oversight to me. Nonetheless, a great long overdue update. There are a handful of other small, but in my opinion, important updates that I want to run through quickly. To start, folder stacks can now be directly converted to summing stacks by right-clicking on the folder track header and choosing Convert Folder Stack to Summing Stack, which automatically creates an aux track in place of the folder track. I absolutely love this, and it's going to save me so much time because I exclusively use summing stacks. But I get sent sessions to mix all the time that are very well organized, but everything is organized in a folder stack. And then I have to recreate the groups with summing stacks. So this is a game changer for me personally. We can now create a session marker from a marquee selection by using the keyboard shortcut Option-Shift-. This will create a session marker the same length as the marquee selection. I can see this coming in handy to quickly create precise marker lengths. Okay, here's another one that used to drive me freaking crazy. Snap automation is now automatically activated when a snap automation value is selected. Before, you would have to activate it, which would close this menu. Then you'd have to go back into the menu to choose the value. Now we can just select the value and snap automation is automatically turned on. Long overdue quality of life improvement there. Another small annoyance fixed is that when right-clicking on a global track and choosing single global track, the track that was right-clicked on is now always displayed as the single global track. Before, this was frustratingly not the case, and you would have to right-click and select the global track that you wanted to be displayed. In the Customize Control Bar and Display menu, we now have this drop-down menu that allows us to change the display of the master volume slider to just the output level meter. I think this is a great update, as I never recommend changing the master volume slider. And with it always displayed up there in the control bar, it was just all too easy to accidentally change it. There's a small tweak to the Bounce project window. They've changed the name for the default destination from PCM to uncompressed. Now this is a very small change, so small it's not even in the release notes, but I think it's worth mentioning as it makes Logic a little less esoteric, as I think more people understand what uncompressed means as opposed to knowing what the heck PCM stood for. Pulse code modulation if you're curious, but that's a different video. There have been a few improvements to the chord track as well. Although it wasn't the overhaul I've been waiting for, there are definitely some good improvements here. For starters, they fixed the bug where creating a new chord did not automatically place that chord at the playhead. That used to be super annoying, but now it reliably places the new chord at the playhead position like it should. We can now import a chord track from another project by going to File, Import, Logic Projects, then select the project that you want to import the chord track from, and at the top of the import menu, go to the Global tab. We then see chord track here, and we can tick on the content checkbox, and then choose Replace down at the bottom, and it will import the chord track from the other session. And finally, it's now possible to move the chords in the chord track with the global tracks hidden by holding Command and clicking and dragging them. There we go, a full breakdown of the new features and improvements in Logic Pro version 11.2. All in all, another great update to Logic Pro. It really seems like supporting and improving Logic Pro is a priority for Apple these days. And man, I'm here for it. Heck, Logic even made an appearance in an Apple TV show. Drop a comment below if you know which show. I hope you enjoyed this review of Logic Pro version 11.2. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the studio next time. Thanks.